Step into the light where the wild ones roam, where the heart speaks loud, calling this place home. We break the rules, we paint the sky, ridiculously you, we were born to fly. Ooh, it's ridiculously you.
Hey, everyone. This is Julie May and the Ridiculously You podcast. Today's guest isn't just walking a new path, she's kind of like bulldozing it. This is Hadley Shafer. She was leading like corporate teams, commanding rooms, delivering strategic plans in places where change and diversity weren't exactly welcome. And when she chose to stop shrinking, she lost her job, which is one of the reasons like people don't speak out about these things. But we celebrate that here. And she gained some beautiful things. She gained creating her company. She gained her damn life back. She gained her voice. And we're going to hear all about it in this episode today. So welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you here. And she's a bit of a world traveler too. So I'm going to get into that because y'all know I love culture and travel and all of the things. So I'm excited about that. So Hadley, can you share with us just a little bit more about this story, about how you were teaching about like culture and diversity and all these things, and your company was like, not so much. Share with us a little bit about that.
Um, so I have been doing events and conferences for over 2 decades. And when COVID happened, my industry really just shut down,
It
and we had
was.
to pivot in so many different ways. And then we had to really start speaking differently to people, because not only were we talking to people who were used to doing things virtually, they were used to this work-life balance, they were staying at home, but they were seeing the world a little bit different. And me as a woman, I was noticing, we really need more diversity on stages when
Oh,
it
for
comes to
sure.
people speaking and things like that. And when I would look at the roster of speakers for different events, it was the same. It was, in an industry I represented, it was all middle-aged white men. And I thought, I talked to some really high level women in the industries that I was representing, and they were like, we look at agendas, we look at who's speaking. And I either know, this is what they say, I either know if I'm going to be your token diversity speaker, or that I don't want to attend because you don't have your token diversity speaker. So,
Mm.
I stood up in a room and said, we really need to flip the coin on this, and we need to change how we're connecting with our audiences and stuff. And I think that ruffled some feathers in the room. So, different people came and talked to me on the side about what they wanted, what they saw, and things like that. And eventually we parted ways. And when I started my business after that happened, when I go and talk to companies about their strategic process for conferences and events, this is one of the things I lay out right in the beginning. You have to talk to people differently. People aren't just coming for your product, they're coming to network, and they want to make sure that they're networking with people who are all different.
Yeah.
And, I used to run a really big conference, and they were like, oh, we should have the young professionals group, and we're going to have the CEO of a major oil and gas company come and speak. And I was like, that sounds cool. But they're not going to talk to them. That's not going to help them on their next level. You need people to be having conversations with that next generation about how do they grow their network and get abroad? How do they get involved in different organizations, get involved in conference planning, even program committees and things like that? Because just to go and see that standardized, non-marginalized person on stage and how far they've come, it's like, that's great, but I don't connect with that, like,
They're like,
so,
yay, head of company. I guess that's cool, but that feels like clear over there in white man
right,
land.
right. Like, I'd really like to
Yeah.
shake that person's hand, but I don't know that security is going to let
Yeah.
me. And,
Yeah.
I had an event once where we had a big party. And when I was talking to some of the directors at the end of it, I was like, oh, next year for the party, we should do this and this. And they were like, no, 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 we're not going to do that next year. And I was like, oh, well, why not? Why not? And they go, well, none of the CEOs came. It was all the younger people. They were just wanted free booze. And I was like, okay, but they're going to be the CEO one day. You have to start
Yeah.
the conversation earlier. I had a boss who was like, hey, we should recognize like PhD students in STEM. And I was like, no, they already know what they're doing. You got to go younger. You got to go into elementary schools, middle schools, talk to them about what's great about STEM and, science,
Mhm.
technology, engineering, and math. Sorry, sometimes I speak in that language and people are like, what is she talking about? Um, so it's just it's, I feel like we're in a unique world where we're trying to teach the the ones who are sitting in the corner office how to talk to people who are sitting in the cubicle,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. So how are those conversations going now? Like you've worked with some companies where that didn't work so well. Are the companies you're working for now more like as an independent contractor? Are they hearing this message better? Are they like seeing the vision?
I really think so. Because a lot of the companies that I work with now are starting new. So
Mm,
I'm an event strategist, right? So they want to do
right.
something they haven't done before. And when we talk about who's going to speak, who is the, kind of audience that we want, and you really get down to the nuts and bolts of, okay, how much money do you want to make on this conference? All right, great. So that's targeting this level. And I, you really need to look up amongst the broad spectrum of the experts in here. And unfortunately, we're in this cancel DEI era of what's happening. But there were, and I believe there still are, a lot of companies who have DEI groups that are saying, hey, we are actually training our people who are diverse to be the experts to speak about this on stages. So it's go to them,
Mm,
talk to them. Who do you have to talk about, I don't know, nanotechnology that is
right.
a black woman or whatever it may be. But like, let's talk diverse. Like, don't just give me your VP of nanotechnology without thinking about other people can talk about this and let's change the conversation. If the delivery changes, the acceptance of the information changes, everything. I think that it makes events more profitable and more better attended when you do that.
Yeah. More profitable, better attended. But like let's talk about like guest experience and what the difference makes to them. So you're a young, you know, young black woman, you're in college, you're doing your thing, you go to this event and it's all white men everywhere or are all diverse. Like what's the difference in their experience?
You know, I like to tell people that I can plan an event or a conference with my hands tied behind my back and with my eyes closed. But to attend an event by myself, to go and network, I'm like, it has always driven me crazy
Mm.
because I don't feel comfortable just walking into a group of people being like, hello, I'm Hadley. What's up? I just feel weird. I'm awkward. It's a thing. But when I go into an event where there is a mix of people, of generations, of race, of sex, I feel less individualized. I don't feel so much like I've walked in wearing a dinosaur costume. I feel like I walk in and I blend. And I think that's what happens is that you just feel like you fit in a little bit more. I went to a conference last week on cybersecurity, and it was just the ages were just from I think the youngest was probably, people in the master's program, and then they had people who were, retired there. And
Right.
everybody was intermingling because it was the topic. It
Oh,
wasn't
fun.
like I'm the best in my field. I mean, I sat down and had the most interesting conversation with a former cyber security legal professor, this woman from Texas A&M, and I just had the most interesting conversation with her, and it had to do some with being a professor and with academia and stuff. And then we started talking about assumptions people make and church and all these different, and it was just like the conversations flowed, and it was because it was a diverse group and I did not feel like the dinosaur in the room.
Mm,
That makes
that's wonderful. So like if you're an event planner or you're somebody out there, because actually we get a lot of people that may not be in the corporate event space, but we get a lot of people who are in more the personal development space. And man, there are a lot of events. And I will say the same thing. Like when I go to events, I'm like, if I see these same five goddamn speakers again, sorry, language, I'm not coming.
yeah.
You look at people's stuff and it'll be, I don't care if it's in Chicago or New York or Florida or wherever, it's the same five people like on every poster. I'm like, seriously, y'all, that's the only people you, but like sometimes every once in a while it'll be like, oh, we have new and different people and they actually are brilliant at what they do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to that thing. Like, so like for people who are listening, like what are some big tips that you can give them about how to create neurodiversity, on their stages, in their audiences, how to create like that, not just for the purpose of being the token person, because that's kind of trite and stupid, but for the purpose of like creating a welcome audience where there is a mixture of all these things and people feel like they can have these beautiful conversations. What will you tell them to do?
So I think one of the best things to do is to volunteer for the events.
Mm,
So reach out to any type of event. They typically will have some type of volunteer option where you can go and you can work registration or hand out brochures or help them set up or whatever. But then you already feel at ease because you're starting to talk to some people who are putting on the event, some other volunteers, and you're like, okay, I've got some camaraderie going on there. And then I think that's I had another thought, but right now I'm just drawing a blank. But the volunteering thing has helped me a lot.
mm,
It also helps. So I attended this event in Dallas that I'm going to be hosting in Houston in a few weeks, and it was really interesting because the event's on a Saturday. I'm not used to doing events on Saturdays, being a corporate event person. They've always been during the week,
oh yeah.
This one is specific for women. And when I first got on a call about this one, I was like, oh, this is really interesting because these were all people who were basically entrepreneurs for the most part, who wanted to share their story. And these were people who didn't give off the corporate vibe, if you will, like when you go
Yeah.
to corporate events, they're, blue button downs, whatever. It's those events that are targeted towards some type of demographic that you relate to. So this one is for women, right? So I relate to that because I'm a woman. And then I go to this event and the enthusiasm and the support that was there was unbelievable. And then I expanded my network from there. So now it's
Mm,
like I've got people from all different aspects, different walks of life from all over that I can say, hey, there's an event in your city. I'm going to come, or I'm going to go to this. And so you start to unfold it that way. And just when you go to those events, you swap business cards all you want, but connect with them on LinkedIn. I think that's huge because you start to see what they're doing. You can comment
yeah.
on their stuff and be a part of um, what they're up to.
Do you have any advice for the people out there? We have a lot of speakers in our network. Do you have any advice for them? Like, we have a lot of female speakers out there. We have a lot of people in the neurodiverse space that are like, I want to get on stages. I want to present more to these people. Like, I have a lot of knowledge and expertise. How do you like get past? Do you have any thoughts on how to be that person that's helping them be more diverse?
Um, Yeah, so I'm kind of in that same boat right now, and there's a couple of things that I've done to do that. One is I took a course to make sure that what I was speaking on would resonate with people. It's called Stage Leaders, and that was really helpful. I knew nobody who was doing that. They had a workshop for us in Orlando. I turned to my husband and I was like, "Do you want to go on a trip with me?" We made it a road trip with our dogs. It was a lot, but it was great because I met these people from all over the U.S. to learn how to speak, and I connected with them. Just putting speaker on your LinkedIn profile, I have had more people contact me about speaking at conferences. And a lot of them are pay to play, and you've got to figure out which ones are worth it.
Yeah.
And then just, there's so many organizations out there that that showcase conferences and events and things like that. Getting into those organizations, looking at tsnn.com, Trade Show Executive, ASAE, those are associations for events. Go on there and then just find out all, call for papers, call for abstracts, call for speakers, and just fill them all out. There are a lot of people who will say, "Hey, I'm going to help you with your brand, and I'm a brand expert, and I'm going to help you get speaking gigs and everything." And if you don't have the time and you want to use them, then do that, but vet them. I
Yeah.
had somebody call me. I was like, "Yeah, we can have a conversation." And then I went to go fill in the calendar invite, and I was like, "This seems a little kitschy." And I just, because they had a weird checkbox. It was like, I understand that if I use it said our services are $1,500 a month. And then it said, I understand that it almost made me feel like if I checked this box, I was going to owe them $1,500 to have a 15-minute conversation.
Oh, right.
So it's reading all. And I was like, I'm not even going to bother. Like, I'm going to check that
And
off.
you might have. I've seen these companies. Right.
Being an entrepreneur, it's like I'm very particular about where I'm spending my dollars, and I really don't want to flush it down a $1,500 sinkhole.
No kidding. Well, that's great advice. But let's get back to your story. Tell us a little bit more about some of your like world adventures. One of the things we were talking about before we hopped on was like, you live this cool life where you've gotten to, live many places abroad. Tell us a little bit more about that. Is there a favorite place you've lived abroad?
Yeah. So one of the stories I love to tell is that I was in my early 30s, and I was single at the time, and I was just like, I'm going to be a spinster for life. This is what it is, because I'm from Texas, so everybody was married, right? And
Yeah.
at that point, I'd been in like 15 weddings, and so I was succumbing to be a spinster. And then originally, when I got out of college, I thought I'd be a famous actress or a comedian.
Mhm.
I didn't have that talent, but so then I was just also succumbing to this career of events. And I got a meeting request from a company in Santiago, Chile. And I had been doing events for about 10 years. And I thought they just wanted to have a conversation about, who do you know in events or energy? Because I've been in the oil and gas space doing events. And we had a conversation for about 45 minutes. And at the end of it, the guy said, "Hey, um, have you ever considered moving to Santiago?" And I was like, "No, I'm not even exactly sure where it is." And then he was like, "So are you married?" And I was like, "Well, that's rude and inappropriate, but no." And so then I realized this door was open to having a conversation about this company. So I started having more and more interviews, and every conversation asked me about my professional experience, and every conversation asked me about my marital status. And I think that that was their way of figuring out how much baggage I would have to pack up to move to Santiago. And I realized that this whole spinster thing wasn't a curse. It kind of became my like key to adventure. And so I packed up everything, including literally 6 bags of shoes.
Now I'm like, how many shoes was this? Do you know how many pairs?
It was kind of ridiculous. They picked me up at the airport and they were like, "Oh, that's a lot of luggage."
We
So,
may come back to shoes, but tell us
right.
more about the
So I
adventure.
actually moved to Santiago on a Saturday. I had never been there before, and I started my job on a Monday. And
Wow.
my Spanish got me as far as ordering a beer in a bar. Like that
I
was
was going
it.
to ask, did you speak Spanish? You're going to Santiago?
I did not. I did not. It was not great either. And
Un poquito. I got nothing. I got
and
nothing.
in the Spanish in Chile is very different from the Spanish in Mexico. And
Hmm.
so I knew, like a little bit. And I remember being at dinner one night with some people. I'd been there maybe 2 weeks, and I was telling them my internet was getting installed in my apartment today, and I kept asking the guy to talk slower, and he just wouldn't. He just wouldn't talk slower because Chileans talk so fast.
Mm.
And this woman looks at me and she goes, "How were you asking him?" And I said, "Más despacio, por favor," because that's what you say in Mexico, which means talk slower, please, or more slower, please. And she
Hmm.
goes, "Yeah, not here. You need to say más lento." And I was like, "Well, what was I telling him?" And she said, "You were asking him to whisper." And I was like, "Mm." That
Mm.
makes sense. That makes
Whisper and speak really quickly. I'll totally get it.
like I now it makes sense because I didn't understand why he kept lessening his voice but talking just as fast to the point where I was like, I don't know. Okay. Okay.
No clue
Um
what you're saying, but cool.
yeah.
Cool.
Just give me internet. Whatever you have to do, just give me internet. So it was amazing and it was hard and I didn't know anybody. I had an acquaintance of an acquaintance who lived there. And I had to start over completely, and it was terrifying, but it was so exciting because I truly stepped out of every comfort zone that I knew. And there was a group called Internations. I believe they're still active all over the world, but like you can go and you can sign up with that whatever city you're living in. That's for expats and you can find out different activities they have going on. And so
Oh,
I signed
cool.
up within like a month or 6 weeks of living there. I signed up for a horseback riding through the Central Andes mountains. Like, who does that? Okay, I do that.
Okay.
I do that. I'm like, I'm from Texas. I can ride a horse. And then through that, I met some other people. I met a guy who was a hiking guide, and he and I went to school in Austin, and you're in Austin. And he was like, "Well, do you hike? We have a hike next week." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
hiked." Sure. And I said, "Is it hard?" And I will never forget his response. He said, "It's relative." And I was like, "Okay." So I signed up for the hike in my little Nike running shoes. And it was something along the lines of 11 miles, no shade, in the dead ass.
11 miles.
It was
11 miles
awesome.
is a long way to walk like straight.
Oh my
Like
God.
I
And I
can
got
do
a
it, but that's a
granola
long way to
bar.
walk. But like hiking,
Yeah, yeah. And I
that's a
remember we're
long
hiking
ass
up the
hike.
mountain, and I look over and I see these fat freaking cows lounging, and I was like, "For fuck's sake, really? Like they are getting up here, no problem, and I'm dying. I'm wearing Nike running shoes and like cargo pants. I mean, it did. So I learned that day. I had never once hiked before in my life. I had gone on leisurely nature walks,
Yes.
and but then I became a lover of hiking.
Mm.
So that's what I would do. Santiago was one of the best experiences of my life, because it just shot me out of the comfort. I had to do everything that made me feel so uncomfortable and be okay with it. Before I moved there, I got okay with going to the movies by myself. Then I moved there and I got okay with going to dinner by myself, and I loved it. I completely lost all ability to cook. I
You're like, but I could just go out.
right. Um,
So take us back. I want to know what helped you make the decision to do this leap, to go to Santiago, because there's so many people that like opportunities come and then they just go, oh, but that's over there. That's for somebody else. That's scary. That's different. That's not according to the rule box. Like you just went, okay,
yeah,
I will take me and my 6 bags of shoes and let's go. So like,
right.
what helped you make that decision, do you think?
So it was funny. I called a few people. I remember I called my parents and I told my mom, I was like, hey, I talked to this guy that apparently has a job opening in Santiago, Chile this weekend. And he asked if I would be interested in moving there. My mom goes, no. And I go, well, I'm not calling for permission. She goes, well, no.
Nope.
And my dad was like, absolutely, you need to go. And I had a friend who had happened to actually live in Santiago years before. And she told me how great it was. But if I'm going to be perfectly honest and tell you what I figured out what it is, um, I call it the poop factor. And that is when
Yes.
everything inside your gut, you feel like so terrified that you will shaduki wherever you are. There is that same exact physical sensation when you're so excited about doing something.
Mm.
And I realized like this is terrifying and I didn't know which it was, but I had to do it. And I lived in New York for a little while when I was right after college. And I remember
Yeah.
when I moved there, a very good friend of mine said, just give it 6 months. If in 6 months you want to leave, then leave. But if in 6 months you're doing okay, then give it a full year. And that's how I've done everything. So I was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to go to Santiago. I'm going to give it 6 months. And I did. And then I wanted to stay. I met somebody, you know, I got in a relationship and he helped me with the bank account and apartment leases and how to order Sprite. And that was great, you know? And then I just realized that if that feeling comes inside my gut or it's not instinct. It's just like everything comes alive. There's goosebumps everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a reason for it. And so I've got to try because
Mm.
at the end of the day, I can always come home.
Yeah,
So why not? So that was the journey I took.
I love that. I love
Thanks.
that. Are there any opportunities that you maybe didn't take that you're like, I wonder what would have happened if I would have taken that opportunity?
Um, not really. I don't tend to live my life in that way. When I got laid off from my job a year and a half ago, I was talking to a company about a new opportunity, and I felt like the offer they gave me was a low ball. So I countered, not by much, um, but by a little bit, and weirdly never heard back from them. I never thought that I would get ghosted after I got married, but I did. And there were times after that I'm like, should I have not countered, you know, should I have just done that? But I don't think so. That's the only thing I can really think of that I ever questioned because what eventually happens, I started my own company and I've gone out on my own and again, it's terrifying and it's exhilarating. So
Oh, for sure. For sure. Okay, are you ready for some lightning round questions?
I hope so.
You hope so. Okay, I want to circle back to shoes because I have some really close people to me who have a lot of shoes. They love shoes. Tell me about your favorite pair of shoes and why it's the best one.
Oh, I wish it was more fun, but it's my Birkenstocks.
Your Birks. Okay, cool. Why are they amazing?
Well, I've just become a little bit of a hippie, and so if I can't be barefoot, then I have to be in Birkenstocks. So I just love them. They're so comfortable. They're so good for your feet.
They are. I spent all of my high school years in Birkenstock. So I totally get it. I don't own any right now. Like I was telling my sister Sarah, if you're listening, hey Sarah, she loves shoes, and we were just talking about we both need to get a new pair of Birkenstocks, and we've been scouting them out recently. So
I
the
love it. I
question
used to
was
be
because,
really into heels. I
mm-hmm,
loved heels, but I have screwed my feet up for the rest of my life in them. And so anytime I try to wear heels, I'm like a drunk toddler. I'm like, I can't really walk, but
you're like, I don't walk like this. You're like it doesn't give you that power walk you think it's going to when you haven't done it for a while. Okay. Next question. Oh, we haven't talked about dancing. You love to dance. What's your favorite like dance it out kind of song?
oh, that's a good one. There's so many. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, so any type of 90s rap, it's it really, you know, gets me going.
Do you have
And
a favorite 90s rap artist? I'm also like 80s, 90s. We're probably about the same age.
probably Bone Thugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
My
it.
husband's like, anytime it comes on, he's like, okay, go ahead. And I'm like,
Let's
I
just
mean, I
go.
was like,
Okay, what is something you used to believe that you don't believe anymore?
um, I would say I used to be probably a victim of my circumstances,
Hmm.
because I was sad for the way things were. And now I believe there's a reason for all of it.
Hmm. I love that. What do you think is the weirdest thing that has helped you heal?
Okay, this is a good one. I took myself on a retreat to Costa Rica about 10 years ago. And this was after my relationship in Santiago. And it was really, that kind of wrecked me, that breakup. And I did this meditation with her. I will never forget this meditation. And she said to picture my ex in a hot air balloon in a field. And I vividly could. And she said, start picturing everybody that you love coming into the field to surround you. And then one by one, peacefully go pick up the stakes that's holding the balloon down and watch him float away while all of your loved ones are coming into the field to support you. It was the most beautiful thing that I've ever done for healing. And anytime I had a heartbreak after that, I would do that same thing. So it's
Mm,
weird to some people, but it's just it was the most beautiful thing that somebody's done for me.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company? You started a new company and all of that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I started a corporate event strategy and planning company because that's my bread and butter for over 2 decades. Um, I've done conferences of all sizes from 150 people to 90,000. And I like to be on the ground floor of companies or associations rather wanting to share something with their community. So, for example, if they're in a specific field and they want to have their network or their community of people all come together because of the technology that they are sharing or things like that, and they need to do a conference, I come in and help strategize all of that for them, and I'll do the nuts and bolts of it. Originally, I started my company with as the name HMS Event Operations, which is still the email address that I use. But I also partner with a branding agency, and the person who owns it was like, because my initials are HMS, if that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
The person that owns the branding agency was like, I feel like you need to kind of step away from just saying HMS and give some clarity around it. And we started talking a lot about what is important to me and the things that that are my pillars. And so we renamed my company Holistic Meeting Strategies. And
Mm,
I just love that because I believe that's who I am to the core, because I'll start from the beginning with you. And I've come in the middle and done things like that. But when you start holistically with somebody, that means you're presenting it fresh
yeah.
and from thought to execution. And that's where I want to be a part of it.
Mm. What's your ideal company or association to work with looks like what?
So I love working with associations. Those are the types that have specific demographics, as in like their demographics might be engineering or engineers or um, doctors or teachers or things like that. Like their demographic is people who are engaged in executing something better for society because of what they've learned and done. And a lot of that it comes from just educating. So I like associations who want to educate more. So conferences that include um, programs and agendas, not just exhibit floors, not just parties. Like, don't call
Mm.
me to plan your wedding or your holiday party. I'm not, that's not my thing. Like,
You could, but it's like not that's not the mission. That's not the purpose we're doing here.
right, right.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I planned my wedding, which was a year and a half ago, and that's the
Mm.
only bride I want to work with. So, and I actually
That's fair. That's fair. What is working with you? How's that different than working with a different event planner or a different strategist? What is that unique ridiculousness you bring to the table?
humor. So I think one of the most important parts of executing anything is to be able to laugh while you're doing it. And I'm good at strategizing. I'm good at coming up with ideas. I'm good at organizing things, keeping watch of, the budget and doing the networking and keeping, doing the RFP, doing all of the business things. But I
Right.
think it's really important to establish a relationship of of enjoying being around each other, knowing you've got business to do, but like this stuff can be stressful, and especially when it's game time, it's
Oh
really
yeah.
long hours and all that kind of stuff. So you got to laugh at it. And I always say that when people attend events, you're always going to have people that say the ice is too cold and the water is too wet, and you just smile and nod, and that's what you go and you deal with your colleagues and your peers, and those are the things that make you laugh later. Like, let me see if I can get you warmer ice, okay? And then we're going to walk away and laugh about it later.
I think those are key things though. I've taken groups on trips like all over the world and had some of my staff there with me. And the ones that I'm like, that guy, that person needs to come on every freaking trip. It was when the entire world was falling apart. It was like this one time we were in, where were we? We were in England, in like south of England. We were in like the middle of nowhere, and we had to arrange transportation like clear ahead of time to get our group from here to here. And then all of a sudden they were like, yeah, so we're like 3 hours behind. Is that going to work for you? And we're like, so no, we will miss our flight. And the entire group will miss our flight. But we were in the butt middle of nowhere that did not have, there was no Uber. There was like none of that existed. There weren't even taxis. And we like, these people that were with me just very calmly were like, we're going to go talk to the front desk. We will be back in 15 minutes. The transportation will be arranged. We're good. And like could handle it in a way that like everyone felt safe and comfortable while we went backstage and went, do 5 million things to make this work, make every call to favors on the planet with the concierge service there. And then we came back 15 minutes later, transport pulls up and off we went. But like the people who can be calm and we can laugh about it and we can like, they just know how to handle those interactions. I swear to you, that is one of the most key personality things, key like attributes that I would want to work with. I'm like, if you can laugh and you can like be calm in those situations, I tell you what, that is a big freaking thing.
It's huge. I had somebody that worked for me years ago that like literally got into a yelling match with one of our vendors, and I was like, we're gonna need to take this outside. We're gonna just walk up calmly, take this outside. I had an attendee come up and scream in my face because he just saw that I was wearing a badge. And I was like, and I just sat there.
Let's
like,
just come
and
outside.
then I walked around and I went down security and I was like, I have been verbally assaulted, but I'm not sure that he was of right mind. So it's okay.
I had a speaker do that too with me at an event that I produced because they insist upon having a cheek mic instead of a lav. And the cheek mic, they didn't want to use cheek tape. You know how like it comes over the ear and there's like a little cheek tape you used. They didn't want to use that. And then it just kind of didn't, it kind of flapped around a little bit. And then they were like, anyway, they had a meltdown on the stage.
No.
They were teaching emotional resiliency, by the way. So it was, I mean, right there. They got like, after they were done, they came out and just like started just yelling at me. And I was just like, let's come quietly over this way. Let's go take this outside. Let's bring security over because your little mic didn't work.
Bring your PowerPoint because I think that we need to learn some things that you didn't learn that you were trying to teach.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because she was like, you know, you get to the end and she was selling something after and said, she told the people like, meet me at my booth. Well, she didn't go to her booth. She went straight to me to yell and missed out on like, somehow 3 or 4 people were still going to buy something. And then she was off yelling at me. So she missed them.
Too bad. Too bad for you.
And I was like, being able to handle those things in a calm way. We laugh about it now, but I'm like, I'm sure there are people that would have melted down, but we did the exact same thing. Let's walk this way. Let's go outside. Let's come over here with security. And then you just know how to handle it. Having people that know how to handle like the things in a rough time, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to ask you 2 more things. I want to know 2 more things. I'm going to tell you both of them. What is the one last message you want to give to our audience if they could take anything away? And then I want you to just look at you as a personal human and tell us what makes you ridiculous.
One thing that they want to take away, well, I think take the chance if you have it and know that you can always come back. So it may not end up the way that you anticipate, but it ended up the way that it was supposed to be. What's ridiculous about me? The fact that I just said poop factor on a podcast.
Love that. And it made sense. And it was like, not just, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally get that. Okay, Hadley, where can people follow you? They want to hear more about you. They're out there going, we've got a big association. We've got some things we need help with. Where can people connect with you best?
Yeah, I would love that. So I'm on LinkedIn, Hadley M. Shafer, Holistic Meeting Strategies. I've also just today, released my very first book. If you don't mind, I'll show that.
Wow, that's exciting. Look at that.
So I have holisticmeetingstrategies.com. I have hadleymshafer.com. If you type Hadley M. Shafer, you're going to find me everywhere. There's not too many of us.
Beautiful. Good. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know where to find Hadley. We're going to put all the links in the description here, so it makes it really easy. Where can they find the book?
Amazon.
Find the book on Amazon, and it is called
Break at the Bend, a woman's transformational journey while following a non-traditional path. There's more of those Santiago stories in there.
Oh, so everyone out there who is, and I think if you're following this podcast, you are somebody who thinks outside the box, goes a different way, does the non-traditional thing, or has in their heart to do the non-traditional thing. So if you want to follow more of that, give us a subscribe. We're going to have a ton more conversations about that. And with that, this has been Julie May and the Ridiculously You podcast. Thank you so much.
Share the spark, take it higher. Hit subscribe, bring a friend. Let the wildness never end. Tap